Something happened this past Saturday that most people still haven't fully processed. Within a single 24-hour window, Iran and Israel both struck each other's nuclear facilities. Not near them, not adjacent infrastructure, the facilities themselves and the world mostly moved on. I want to slow down and actually walk through what happened, because when you lay it all out in sequence, it's genuinely alarming. Let's start from the beginning. Early Saturday morning, Iran's own Atomic Energy Organization confirmed that the Natanz enrichment facility had been hit again. That's not me saying it, that's Tehran saying it. Natanz sits about 220 kilometers southeast of the capital. It is the backbone of Iran's entire uranium enrichment operation. This was already the second time it's been targeted in the current conflict alone, which Israel calls Operation Epic Fury. The US has dubbed Operation Roaring Lion a campaign that began on February 28th. Iranian state media, specifically Tasnim News, immediately called it a joint American-Israeli air operation. Western outlets reported bunker buster munitions were used, the kind specifically engineered to collapse underground structures. Now here's the line that should make you stop. Iran's Atomic Energy Organization released a statement saying, "No radioactive material has leaked and there is no danger to local residents." Read that again slowly. That is not a damage report, that is a containment reassurance. The Iranian government was publicly telling the world, yes, a fortified underground facility packed with enriched uranium just absorbed direct hits. And the best news we have is that radiation didn't escape the walls. That's the good news. The IAEA was immediately notified. Director General Rafael Grossi called on all parties to exercise maximum restraint to prevent a nuclear accident. Russia's foreign ministry went further, calling the strike a flagrant violation of international law, and warning openly of the risk of a region-wide catastrophe and Israel's military. They said they had no awareness of any strike on their part. Notice that phrasing very carefully. Not a denial, not a confirmation, no awareness. When the IDF wants credit, they take it publicly. When they want distance, they create just enough ambiguity for the US to absorb the attribution while Jerusalem keeps its options open. Keep that phrase in mind, we'll come back to it. Hours later, Iranian ballistic missiles hit Dimona and Arad in southern Israel. One achieved a confirmed direct hit on a residential building. The IDF verified it themselves. Iranian state television didn't soften the message at all. They called it explicit payback for Natanz. The IRG framed the entire missile salvo as legitimate retaliation. Now, for anyone unfamiliar with Dimona, this isn't a random southern Israeli town. The Shimon Peres Negev Nuclear Research Center has operated there since 1958. Israel has never officially confirmed having nuclear weapons, maintaining what's called a policy of nuclear ambiguity. Dimona is the reason that policy exists. Intelligence agencies and non-proliferation experts assess it as the primary site, where Israel's undeclared nuclear arsenal was assembled and continues to be maintained. Iran just dropped a ballistic missile into the residential perimeter surrounding it. By evening, close to 40 people had been treated by emergency services across multiple strike zones. A 12-year-old was hospitalized in serious condition from shrapnel. A woman in her 30s suffered moderate wounds. Paramedics described collapsed buildings and widespread panic across at least 12 separate locations in the city. The IAEA confirmed it had received no reports of damage to the research center itself and detected no abnormal radiation levels. That was the second nuclear reassurance statement the IAEA had to issue in a single day. 2 countries, 2 nuclear sites, same 24 hours. The IDF also launched an internal investigation into how the missile penetrated their defensive envelope. Dimona is one of the most heavily fortified locations in the entire country. Arrow and Iron Dome batteries are layered around the Negev specifically because of what's inside. The fact that a missile got through on a day when Israeli defenses were presumably at maximum alert is not a glitch. It's a demonstrated vulnerability. It tells Iran the target is reachable, and it forces Israeli military planners to sit with a very uncomfortable question. If one missile broke through under these conditions, what happens during a coordinated, sustained saturation attack? To understand how Saturday's events were set up, you have to go back to Tuesday, March 22nd. The IAEA confirmed a projectile struck a structure just 350 meters from the reactor building at Bushehr. This is Iran's only operational nuclear power plant, a Russian-built reactor connected to the national grid since 2011. On site, 72 tons of fresh fissile material and 210 tons of spent nuclear fuel. Rosatom CEO Alexei Likachev warned a direct hit would produce a catastrophe of regional scale, affecting multiple Middle Eastern countries, with no party escaping the fallout. He called for an immediate safety exclusion zone around the entire facility. What makes the Bushehr strike particularly strange? Most assumed it came from the US or Israel. But But satellite imagery shows the debris pattern fanning southward, meaning the projectile came from the north. This raises an unsettling possibility. The strike may have originated from inside Iran. A misfire, an accidental launch, a malfunction. No government has claimed it, no one is investigating it publicly. Satellite images a week before show an unidentified 5-meter-long object in an open field at the exact location. It has never been explained. Director General Grossi called the event the reddest of red lines in nuclear safety. Consider what's its downwind from Bushehr, massive desalination plant supplying drinking water to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, and Kuwait. The entire Gulf's freshwater infrastructure draws from the Persian Gulf. A radiation release at Bushehr doesn't stay within Iran's borders. It reaches the water supply for tens of millions of people across multiple countries. Russia had already begun evacuating staff before the strike. Children of employees were removed first. A third round of evacuations is now underway. Roughly 480 Russian personnel remain on site. Construction of 2 additional reactor units has been frozen. Moscow formally protested to Israel through its Tel Aviv embassy, reminding Jerusalem that the exact locations of Russian citizens on site had been shared in advance. That's not diplomatic boilerplate, that's a warning. On the same Saturday, the Israeli Air Force confirmed a precision strike on a facility inside Malik Ashtar University in Iran, described by the IDF as a site used to develop components for both nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles. The university is under the Iranian Defense Ministry, under international sanctions and linked to SPOND. The Organization for Defensive Innovation and Research, direct successor to Iran's documented nuclear weapons program, halted in 2003. The IDF had already struck another SPOND-linked laboratory near the Moj complex on March 2nd, destroying a building that satellite imagery confirmed was completed in early 2025 and never inspected by IAEA personnel. A brand new, unsafeguarded facility, eliminated before international monitors ever got eyes inside. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi stated the campaign is roughly halfway done. He described Iran as battered, operating with severely degraded air defenses, and in his words, confused. US CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper reported more than 8,000 military targets struck inside Iran over 22 days, including 130 naval vessels. A CNN satellite investigation showed 77% of 27 underground bases and 107 tunnel entrances bombed, and yet Iranian crews were digging out buried munitions and resuming operations within 48 hours of each strike. Neither side is collapsing. This is grinding forward. Halevi also referenced something that should concern people well outside the Middle East. The previous Friday, Iran fired 2 intermediate-range ballistic missiles at Diego Garcia, the joint US-British base in the Indian Ocean, roughly 3,800 kilometers from Iranian territory. One failed mid-flight, US Navy warship fired, an SM-3 interceptor at the second. Whether that intercept succeeded is still unclear, but Halevi's real point wasn't Diego Garcia, it was range. He noted those missiles were never aimed at Israel. Their reach extends to the capitals of Europe, Berlin, Paris, Rome. 3 weeks earlier, Iran's foreign minister stated Iran was not developing long-range missiles and had capped their range below 2,000 kilometers. The Diego Garcia launch doubled that declared limit in a single night. Iranian semi-official media later boasted the new range exceeded anything their adversaries had anticipated. On the same Saturday, Iran also fired 6 to 8 separate ballistic missile salvos at Israel. Fragments from one struck a kindergarten in Rishon LeZion, in central Israel, leveling the building. The mayor stood in front of the wreckage and said that if it had been a normal school day, the outcome would have been unthinkable. Israel's education minister cancelled all Passover camps across 18 municipalities. Defense Minister Israel Katz visited the site and called it a war crime. Meanwhile, Hezbollah continued rocket fire. From Lebanon, homes were damaged in Metula and Safed. Drones crossed into Israeli airspace as sirens ran across the western Galilee. By Saturday evening, a second Iranian missile barrage struck the southern city of Arad. Magen David Adom declared a mass casualty incident, at least 30 wounded, several in critical condition. Rescue teams described people trapped under rubble. Outer building facades collapsed, multiple people found unconscious. That was the second time in a single day that Iranian ballistic missiles punched through Israel's defensive systems and landed in populated areas. Here's where I want to leave you. Every nuclear safety threshold that existed when this conflict began on February 28th has now either been crossed outright or come within 350 meters of being permanently erased. And not one government involved has publicly articulated what conditions would actually end this. The question is no longer whether a miscalculation is possible. At this point, the more urgent question is whether anyone on either side has genuinely thought through what happens the morning after one occurs. Thanks for watching. If you want to stay on top of how this develops, subscribe and turn on notifications. The next breakdown is already up. Click through for where this conflict is likely heading next.